It's been what, 5-10 streams that I did, and I still don't know how it works. So let's see if it actually works. I'll be checking in, seeing if there are people jumping in as well. I know that it was kind of last minute in terms of when the stream was announced, because I woke up this morning and I thought, why not? Hello. Okay, so Eliza's here. If you don't know, guys, who Eliza is from Scrum Master team. She is our Chief Productivity Officer who is keeping tabs on me and helps me stay on track. Hey, Tariq. Welcome. Okay. Bit ad hoc, so I will be jumping in some of my emails and notes just to find some questions that I have had previously. And I also thought it would be cool to jump into some of the memes I have been collecting for a really long time. Hi, Andy. When there's good questions are already coming. Awesome. Okay. I remember last time I wanted to bring in my questions with me into the stream, and then I ended up having so many questions in the chat. So that was great. Okay, well, when does a challenge or a problem become an impediment? That's from Andy. Well, what would be the best way to describe it? So I think that an impediment is what impedes team's progress, obviously, but it also something that cannot be resolved by the team themselves. So that's kind of where you're trying to find a balance between the team being self-managing and you helping resolve impediments on their way. So I would say that most of the time, first, it is something that the team would need to try to resolve on their own. And then when it gets to that escalation point, I think this is when you want to jump in, because this is when it becomes an impediment. The team is unable to resolve it on their own. So that's kind of where I would say, hi, Jack. Okay, Jack has his first Scrum Master interview tomorrow. Any last minute recommendations? Stay calm. I think that a lot of the times people, when going into the interviews, feel very, well, I mean, it's an interview, right? It's like a test. So you're nervous, and what often happens is you start rambling and you speak too much and you speak too quickly. So I would say stay calm and focus on what you know, because you know your stuff, and just remember that, right? I know it, I'm coming in and I'm here to help. And instead of kind of trying to jumble, like you're in your mind for some ideas or trying to cover everything you could in when answering a question, just stay focused, and you don't have to speak super quickly. Also, one of the key advice I would say, once you hear the question, don't answer right away. Count to 3 in your head and then start answering. So kind of chill. So I hope that helps. I don't know if it's a very incredible advice, but I think that this is really what helps for the interviewer to see someone who is confident coming in and just sharing their experiences, sharing their thoughts, versus someone who is kind of trying to convince the interviewer that they don't know their stuff. Okay, we have Wishwas Basat. Hi. We have Chad McLean. Hello, everyone. Hilda. Good luck, Jack. Yes, that's true. Thanks, Hilda, for saying that. Good luck, Jack, on your interview. Definitely, just, even if it's not a win, it's always an opportunity to learn, right? Okay, some more questions coming in. Okay, so another question from Tariq. Do you have any plan to go over Kanban in detail in any upcoming video? CKPA certification worth it along with CSM and CSPO? Okay, so let's go the first question. Do I plan to go over Kanban in more detail in any upcoming videos? I didn't have it on my plan, but I will tell you that I usually don't plan for as much in advance. I usually plan for maybe like a month worth of videos. So this is a potential topic. I do have one video on it, right? So I went over some kind of basic topics on Kanban. I guess more of what would you like me to go over? If I were to do another Kanban video, what would it need to be, right? What kind of topics would you want me to look into? I think that would be helpful. One of the things that I was thinking about is I wanted to talk about Trello because that's a cool, very easy to use tool to organize your work. And I wanted to help you to basically help create a Kanban board to show you how to do it and how to set up some of the rules, like Kanban rules within this board. So that was one idea that I have on my list for now. And now the second part of your question is the Kanban certification worth it? I mean, I think that it's not really just the certification itself. I think what's worth it is that learning opportunity. You know, if you're going for a class, I think that's always great to learn a bit more about Kanban. It's a great method. It can be very helpful for any team, whether Scrum team, Agile team, or, you know, really any team. So definitely something that I would look into, but not just the certification itself. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have been much less focused on just the certification and much more interested in learning, right? So if I'm going for a certification class, right, I'm attending it not for the certification itself in the end, but for the class, right, for the experience. So I think that's what is the most important. Do employers look into that certification? I think that's kind of the question here. Maybe. But I think mostly right now, if you're a Scrum Master, what employers are mostly looking for is the CSM PSM, so the traditional Scrum Master certification. And the bigger companies are looking into the SAFe certification. I think that one is, even though I know that the Agile community is not very, you know, happy about the SAFe implementations, or it's not happy, but I kind of look down on it because it's not as agile and there's a lot of controversy around it. But the reality is that a lot of companies are using it, and I think knowing it and having a certification can be very helpful. I did do the classes with them, and I kind of have a general idea of what SAFe is, for example, but I never passed the certification because I was too lazy, to be honest, to actually do that. Okay, I have a question from Wishwas, and I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing all of your names. Okay, so I have a question. What to do in case when you got something critical or high priority task suddenly? Oh, okay, something kind of coming in. I guess you're talking about like in a sprint for a team. Okay, but your PO is saying we can't take it as we have already prioritized other items. Okay. Well, I mean, what does the team work on? Well, what PO says the team should work on. And I think that's one of the most important parts of that role of a product owner. If you're a Scrum Master or if you're just working in a Scrum team, you know, your product owner decides what you should be working on because in the end, they are held accountable for the value delivered, right? And in this case, we have to listen to what they tell us, right? If the product owner says, hey, this is what is more important. Yes, I know this other task is coming in, but I don't think it's as important as it seems. We have to listen to them, because if we don't, then we cannot really, in the end, hold them accountable for the delivery, for the value, right? So we need to respect that decision power that they have. Also, something critical and high priority. Sometimes it seems like it's critical and high priority because it's urgent, right? You kind of have a date attached to it. And then everybody says, well, it's urgent, we have to do it. I do have a video on that, like an older one, where I talk about how to prioritize. It talks about Eisenhower matrix. I think that's how it's called. And it basically talks about the fact that not everything that is urgent is actually important. And it gives you various ways of how to prioritize that information based on whether it's actually important, not just whether it is urgent. So I would look into that. I think that's an important one to look into. High priority or critical, also based on says who, right? It's high priority, who says that? And if it's not the product owner, well, is it really a high priority? Because every stakeholder will always come in and tell you that something's more important than something else. That's why we have the product owner who makes the final decision. So yeah, I hope that helps. Not maybe the ideal answer that you would want, but in the end, you give your product owner decision power, you respect their decisions, but then you also hold them accountable for high value in the end. Okay, good question. Another question from Andy. Who is responsible for the release decision, the product owner or the Scrum team? You mean like when we release? The answer to that is it depends, because I think that different people will have different decisions to kind of put into that, or information to bring to that decision. Is what I mean by that is the product owner decides on the value, right? What are we working on? What will bring the most value? And technically they can say, well, we have enough value created and we feel that it's good enough to deliver to our customers right now with what we have. And they have the right to say that, right? They have the right to decide whether we have built enough value and it's good enough to be released. But then our developers may come back and say, maybe we haven't tested properly, or maybe we don't feel that it's high quality, like enough of the quality that we want to be able to release. So they are also bringing in that information to the table, and it's kind of a negotiation. Say if the product owner says, it's good enough, we haven't finished testing, we're releasing, well, the developers are accountable for the definition of done, or for delivering something that aligns with our quality expectations. And they can say no in this case. Yes, we understand that you want to release, but it's not ready. Right? So I'd say it's kind of more of a conversation, negotiation, when the team believes it's good enough and it's ready to be given into the hands of the customers. Okay, good. So let me hydrate with coffee. So what else do we have? Jack, thanks. Hopefully it's going to be good. Yes, Jack. Okay, great. Chad is asking, what Agile certifications do you recommend? I'm looking at the Agile certifications with PMI and Next Step, possibly. Good questions that you're actually asking. I was looking into making a video on different certifications. So I was doing a little bit of research into different Agile certifications. And I think I kind of have the same approach. Is it an opportunity to learn for you, right? If you're looking more specifically for Scrum Master certification, I think the more popular ones still stay the CSM from Scrum Alliance and the PSM from scrum.org. Those are the two most popular ones. I haven't heard as many people talk about PMI certification. They have kind of their own different certification types, right? And approach overall. If you're looking more for kind of Agile certifications in general, I know that IC Agile is very popular. They have some really great classes and certifications associated with them. Just to kind of a note here is that IC Agile, every trainer creates their own class. So it's important to find great trainers who will be able to teach you some good classes, obviously. So I'd say look into IC Agile. I think that's can be a good one. I think if you're a Scrum Master and maybe you're not super technical, like I'm not super technical, DevOps can be very good certifications to look into. I think they're, even though they're kind of more technical, I think understanding this can be very helpful. So I guess it depends. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with that certification, Chad. So let me know if that's those are some of the ideas that maybe you can look into. You know, IC Agile and other things like DevOps, or if you're looking more into the Scrum Master specific ones. Oh, Mayank, hi. I remember you from some past streams, if I'm not mistaken. So, can you make a video about Jira? A Jira Align in detail? Do you mean like Jira Align? Is that, or are you talking about Jira? Just Jira. Assume you're talking just about Jira. So I do have this on my list. I'll be honest that I do want to do Jira a bit more. What I wanted to do in one of the upcoming videos, it's on my list, is to go over more specifically the reports in Jira. Like look into all of the different types of reports that they provide and how to read them and which ones can be useful. Because if you look into Jira, there's so many different reports that exist, and it may get pretty overwhelming to which ones should you use or maybe you shouldn't use. And I think that that can be very helpful for me to look into that. But maybe you're looking for something more specific. For me, it's hard with Jira because I know it well. I mean, I never really attended a class or anything, and it's sometimes hard for me to know what parts of Jira are more confusing for people, or where would it make more sense to kind of go into more details and explanation, because some of the things that I have are very kind of straightforward for myself. So if you have more specific ideas of what I should cover, let me know. Okay. Okay, what else do we have? Sudhanshu says, Daria, how does one move from a different domain like learning and development and become a Scrum Master? I understand we can shadow a Scrum Master in the current org, but what if there isn't a Scrum Master? Yes, so that was in one of my recent videos where I talked about it, because that's a really good question. And I think that this is where something that we don't talk about often, right? If you are in an organization where you don't really have a Scrum Master to shadow, or your company is not really doing any agile transformations or implementations, you need to go somewhere where they do have that, right? So you're in learning and development. That already is pretty good because you will have a lot of skills associated with the Scrum Master role. But if you are in a company that has nothing to do with Scrum or Agile, it may be difficult to really gain the experience that you would need. And so in this case, I would recommend trying to find a role in another company, still the same role, right? You are in learning and development, kind of going into the same role of learning and development, but in a company that can give you the relevant experience. So in a company that has Scrum teams, that does some Agile implementations, and actually go into a place where you would be able to shadow a Scrum Master, like a real life Scrum Master who is working with a team. So yeah, that kind of would be, I think this is the best approach. And I know that it means that it's going to take you more time, but it's much easier to switch into that kind of different domain, completely different role within an organization than trying to jump into it, coming from a different company, from a different domain, and then jumping into the new role in a new company. I think that it's this kind of a big leap, and the chances of success would be much lower than if you're trying to do that transition within a company you are already working for. Okay. Okay, Manish is saying, I am not comfortable in retro with unresponsive team. What to do? Well, what to do? It depends on your team. It depends on your facilitation style. But I think first is making sure that you have a clear structure that you can follow. I think especially when you are not feeling comfortable, maybe it's a new team or have a particularly difficult team, not very responsive team, it's good to have just a kind of a step-by-step that you can follow. And for that, I would recommend actually like sitting down, spending a couple of hours to prepare your retrospective, like step by step, writing down all of the questions you want to ask, what do you want to say, like scripts for yourself. So when you are going into that retrospective, you have a plan and you can just follow through with this plan. You have some ideas, like you don't need to come up with new questions or new ways to approach maybe the team during the meeting, and you already have a plan that you bring with you. And in this case, it kind of reduces the stress from you, I think. And then also, like, don't be too hard on yourself. You know, it's that facilitation takes time to develop, and some teams are more responsive to one type of facilitation than the other. You know, some exercises that or questions you're going to bring into your retro will be successful and some won't be. Kind of getting comfortable with that awkwardness in the retro is also something that can help. Just knowing that sometimes it's going to be awkward, you know, I'm going to ask a question and no one's going to reply, and just trial and error. But yeah, I think that to help you become more comfortable is to have a very clear structure, and maybe make it a little bit shorter as well at first. If you have your retro for 1 hour right now, maybe try to run instead like 45-minute retros to keep it shorter, first of all. And if it's also team is unresponsive, kind of difficult to get into that retrospective mood, I'd say, is to keep teaching, you know, kind of saying, hey, this is a retrospective. Here's what we want to do in the retrospective. Here's the purpose of this meeting. And I'm here to facilitate this discussion. You know, just kind of drilling down that information that it's not for me, for the Scrum Master, that's for you guys, for the team. So if you want to use this time effectively, I need you to participate. So kind of going back to the basics. Okay. Ooh, the chat is going crazy. Lots of things are happening here. So let me see. We have another question from Jack. Any thoughts on how to determine the psychological safety in the company? I guess in the interview, right? Because you're going to the interview. I feel like everyone always just agrees when I ask, but I know 100% of companies don't actually have it. Yeah, that's true. It's true that a lot of companies don't really have it. It's, you know, it's when you're going into an interview and for a Scrum Master role, and you're trying to understand how agile they are or how well they actually align with Scrum or how respectful they are of the rules. And when you're trying to ask, they will always tell you, oh, we're totally agile. Yes, we 100% agree with the framework, right? But then once you start working there, it's not at all the case. And I think it's kind of hard to, it's sometimes really just on the feeling, I think. And maybe just in terms of the psychological safety, or even trying to understand whether they want to really implement Scrum or they have their own idea in mind, is asking questions around what are their biggest challenges and pain points. Because through that, you would be potentially able to understand what they believe is a problem, right? For example, if you have someone who has like a company or a team with a manager that does a lot of micromanaging, they will most likely see problems with people maybe not reporting on status every 5 minutes, or maybe the team is not working hard enough and they're not delivering. So that can kind of tell you, well, is it about not working hard enough, or is it about external challenges that the team is facing? And kind of trying to see whether there is an understanding of what might be happening in the team, what potential challenges the team might have, and through that, maybe you would be able to see whether there is psychological safety, right? If I'm trying to find an example that would be like very clear, but it's not as black and white, right? Like, yeah, I guess really, what is the biggest challenge that you have in the team? What do you think are the biggest problems that you need to resolve? And through the answers, you can see whether the problems that are being perceived are they perceived from the point of view we're trying to help the team and elevate the team, or we just need you to make the team work better, or kind of more focused on that management mentality rather than leadership mentality. So yeah. Yeah, Chad, I see me when everyone says that they're agile. I remember one company I worked with. They had a team and they were 100%. They were saying, "No, we're 100% agile. We implemented agile like 2 years ago. We're so good." And they had a plan, a product backlog. They had a plan for 2 years. So they created a plan 2 years in advance, and they were executing this plan without changing it exactly as they planned for it. It's just they were executing it in sprints, and they were convinced that they were 100% agile. I'm like, I'm not sure you understand what it means. Okay, what else do you have? Okay, Hilda has another question. The capacity of your team is about 150, but their velocity is about 90. If you go with 90, some will not get a ticket assigned that sprint. What do you do? Trying to prevent spillovers. When you say the capacity of your team is 150, what does it mean? Is it in hours? Or how did you determine that their capacity was 150? Because for me, the way you determine that is actually, well, the velocity is what it would be the most important, because the velocity is historical data that shows you how much work the team is able to accomplish within a certain amount of time, well, within a sprint, right? So if their velocity on average is 90, that's their velocity and capacity. Like, that's how much work they're able to accomplish within the sprint. So like, past velocity shows you future potential capacity. I don't know if I'm making sense, but basically, that's how you would determine how much work to take in terms of, if you go with 90, some people will not get a ticket assigned that sprint. It's not really about, you're not trying to assign a ticket to every single person from the very beginning. It's more coming into what are we trying to accomplish as a team within the sprint. And then if someone doesn't have work, like they found themselves in the middle of the sprint and they have nothing to do, well, okay, great. What can you do now? Like, now that you don't have anything else to do, maybe you have finished all of the work that you had. Great. Is there something you can do to help your team members? Maybe you can help someone with testing or writing code, or you can split some of the work to help others get to done quicker. Or another way you can go about it is, well, what is next most important thing in our product backlog? Just pick up the top item, or go ask the product owner what would be the most important next thing to work on, and go in and take it, right? So it's more, you're trying to plan for what is most reasonable, but if people run out of work, they can just take in something new. That's okay to bring something over into the sprint if the team or the team member feels that they can, they're free, they don't have anything else to do, and they can take in some additional work to finish before the end of the sprint or help others. So yeah. Okay. Okay. So what else do we have? Okay, Mayank, yes, thanks for recognition. It's about Jira Align. Okay, I'll need to look into that then. I'm not sure I know what would that mean. Let me write it down, because my memory will most likely make me forget that. Else do we have? We have Uzaima, who says, can you explain the roadmap to be a Scrum Master from level 0? As I have joined the company as a new Scrum Master, and there is no Scrum Masters, and you're the only one. And so you need to learn the Scrum Master role. So there is no one really who can help you, and you're very new in this. Well, if you don't have anyone else who can support you, that's obviously not the ideal situation. It's going to be harder because you will need to really rely on yourself. I would say making sure that you reach out overall to the community as well, even if it's not within your company. I don't know how big your company is, but maybe there are Scrum Masters in other parts of your company who you can reach out to. If not, going outside of your company and, continue to participate in the communities with other Scrum Masters, learning from them what kind of challenges they might be facing, and asking for that help from them. Definitely going to be helpful. In terms of a roadmap to be a Scrum Master from level 0, a roadmap. That comes back to what I often talk about is the Scrum Master development plan, right? So there are certain skills I believe that a Scrum Master needs to develop over time, and some skills are kind of a bare minimum, something that you absolutely have to have and have to know at the very beginning, and then as you grow, you will develop more and more skills, right? So for example, at the very beginning, at the very start as a Scrum Master, the skills that I would expect you to have would be around things like observation and listening, for example, being able to analyze the situation, like assessment of the team. Obviously, very strong Scrum knowledge, and very basic beginnings of, I'd say, facilitation and coaching. When I talk about coaching, what I mean is usually the first step in this bare minimum is asking questions, knowing how to use powerful questions. That's one of the techniques that you can look into. And then on terms of facilitation, I think because it's very beginning, kind of the bare minimum you would want to have is to have at least a toolbox that you have already created and you can rely on to be able to facilitate the most basic things, right? So that you know how to facilitate a basic retrospective, a basic sprint review, a basic sprint planning. So you might not be able to maybe improvise, but having a very clear like toolbox that you can rely on, that is kind of a knowledge slash skill that I would expect from a Scrum Master at the very beginning. So that would be the first things that you would need to work on as your Scrum Master, maybe zero experience, you have no idea what you're doing. Well, focus on those. Okay, I need to be able to facilitate sprint plannings, retros, reviews, etc. What do I need? What am I missing? And you create this toolbox that you can rely on. Then you can say, okay, I need to be able to ask questions, or I need to be able to coach my team. So how can I implement this? How can I learn more about powerful questions? How can I be able to ask those questions in meetings to help my team, right? And you work on those first, like on those kind of basic skills and knowledge, and obviously Scrum. And then the next one would be, okay, now that I have that basic level, like the bare minimum, what would be the next step? Well, now we're going more into more real facilitation, right? You want to start kind of expanding your facilitation practice, becoming a bit more making it more improvisational, I'd say, being able to like just making yourself more comfortable with facilitating. Then you can think about, now that you have very good understanding of Scrum, the next one would be Agile practices overall, right? So you would dive more into that research of understanding different practices. What can you kind of help implement within your team? Maybe you start looking into Kanban, other things, right? And so you're expanding your knowledge of Agile and Scrum. Coaching, right? We started with asking questions, powerful questions. What other coaching techniques you can start implementing so that you can help your team? Teaching actually is like a bare minimum skill as well. So teaching is where you would want to also focus on. You want to be a good teacher. You want to be able to explain and teach Scrum to your team, to executives, to anyone in your organization, right? And how do you do that? Well, you look for opportunities to practice each skill, really. Teaching, you can organize various workshops or kind of mini classes for your colleagues so that you can work on that skill. So that's kind of a bit like a small roadmap that you can walk through. And then the next level would be more progressive skills. And I think the more you work in the Scrum Master role, the more you're able to understand where you would want to grow, like what kind of skills you would want to add into your list of skills, the Scrum Master skills. So yeah, there isn't one way fits all, unfortunately, and it isn't like one approach that you can just go with. Okay. So what else do we have? So have so Hanshu Sharma, who says, thanks, I'm trying to crack a few interviews for Scrum Master to get into the role full time. Fingers crossed. Great, awesome. Good luck with that. So it's every interview is an opportunity to learn. And even if it's not a success, try to find what you can improve in the next one, right? Even if you fail, it's always an opportunity to learn. Okay, another user says, what happened Well, I mean, that's the username, what happened. And they say, I have been taking the Scrum lessons and I'm so scared to take the certification. Which ones were you taking? Is it, are you going for the professional Scrum Master, which with scrum.org? So, I mean, yes, it's the PSM1 is the hard exam, right? You need to pass 85%. I think the CSM is easier, though. Well, that's what I heard. Because first of all, CSM, you can pass it at 65%, which is much lower. PSM is 85. So how you can actually kind of get ready is create yourself a cheat sheet. Like I always recommend this to all of my students as well who are coming to my classes. So what I mean by a cheat sheet, making sure that you have the most like the key information right next to you so that you are not wasting your time during the exam to find it. So it may mean very clearly state the 5 Scrum values, the 3 pillars of empiricism. I remember it by heart now because I'm teaching it and I've read the Scrum guide like a million times, but it's not really a muscle memory if you're still new to this. Then making sure that you have all of the events written down, like an actual piece of paper with all of that key information right there. So you can find it, like get to it quickly and you don't need to look for it in the Scrum guide. So all of the events, the purpose of each event, who attends, how long it is, what are you inspecting, like what are the inputs into the events and what are the outputs. And then for each role, the same. What is the purpose of the role? If you can spend a bit more time as well to create a little cheat sheet to help you remember what each role potentially is doing in every event. Right? What does the product owner do in sprint planning? What does the what do developers do in sprint review, etc., etc. And so once you have this little cheat sheet, then I think it can be very helpful for the exam. Good. Chad is asking regarding technical debt. Oh, there's so much information there. Okay, so many questions. So Chad, regarding technical debt, who generally is held accountable, the product owner or Scrum Master? I always think of it collectively, but Scrum Master manages to it. I would say the whole Scrum team. So here are a few things. The product owner technically has the power, I'm going to put that this way, has the power to either help the team reduce technical debt or force the team to create more technical debt. Why is that? Well, because the product owner decides what the team should be working on. And so if your product owner decided, for whatever reason, that we have no time to fix any technical debt and we need to like deliver features and faster, which forces the team to make workarounds and create technical debt, it's on them as well, right? To make sure that they prioritize enough of that work on the technical debt for the team to work on. At the same time, we can say as the developers, well, the developers are accountable for the quality, right? So if they constantly create technical debt consciously, I'd say, like they make a decision, I'm going to create more technical debt just because it's going to save me time, it's on them. But at the same time, you have a Scrum Master who needs to make sure that everybody understands actually the whole planning in a Scrum team, meaning that that the organization and the product owner, the stakeholders, are not pushing the team to deliver something that is unrealistic, right? As a Scrum Master, I need to make sure that I coach the stakeholders to help them understand how we plan, that we are not forcing the team to do things that are impossible, which forces then them to try to cut corners and to save some time. Also, the Scrum Master is responsible for the product owner understanding how to prioritize work, right? If the product owner thinks that the only thing that's important in any product is just features, well, there's a problem, right? We need to make sure that your product owner understands that technical work is as important as other things. And at the same time, Scrum Master needs to help the developers properly, I'd say, highlight the necessity to fix technical debt. Often, you would say, oh, the product owner doesn't prioritize our technical debt. And then you go in and you look at the technical debt and like, I have no idea what this means. Like, this is way too technical. Well, yes, it's technical debt. Yes, of course, I understand. But we need to be able to explain it in such a way so that the product owner can make decisions based on it, right? You can't just say, oh, we need to fix these packages, and that's it. Well, why do we need to fix these packages? Oh, well, if we don't fix them today, in 2 weeks, or in 3 months, we will be forced to, I don't know, do a big workaround, or we're going to be losing 2 hours every time we touch this file if we don't fix those packages now. So you need to be able to translate the technical debt. So I guess everybody has an accountability in this circle, and it depends on where the problem is coming from, right? If your developers are doing everything they can to try to prioritize the technical debt, but the product owner doesn't, it's on the product owner, right? That's just an example. So whoever is maybe not pulling their weight, this is where you would say the problem is coming from. Okay, Denise, I am a new Scrum Master too, with no tech background. I joined the team with no Scrum Master and I have no one helping me. I feel I'm not adding value to the team because I am clueless. How can you advise or coach a team of developers when you don't know what they do? Most of the time, I have no idea what they're talking about in meetings and don't understand Jira tickets. Okay. Well, you don't have to know what they do. You just need to appreciate them for what they do. And your role is not to understand the details of their work. It helps to understand kind of what they're talking about. So having a bit of the knowledge around the technical language is definitely helpful. But I often come in, like I worked with very technical teams and I'm not technical. Like I have very basic technical knowledge. I often just come in and say, hey, I am a Scrum expert. I'm an expert on team building, on process optimization, coaching, teaching. That's why I'm here. I have no idea what you do, and I rely on you to making sure that you're doing a good job. Like, I rely on you. I know that you're the experts in your field. I'm not here to tell you how to do your work on the technical side. I'm here to help you with processes and helping you optimize and be more effective. So this is where I focus on. And I often say to the teams, I say, I'm going to ask you questions that might seem very silly. But I'm asking them sometimes because I'm trying to understand better whether what you're doing makes sense from more of an effectiveness point of view. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your technical work. I'm just trying to understand whether on the process level, communication level, it makes sense. So kind of just letting the team know in advance, I will be asking a lot of questions. And letting them know that you're not the expert in what they do, but you're expert in something else. And not being afraid to ask questions. And honestly, sometimes, right, coming back to the technical debt, the talk that I just had, is if you have Jira tickets and you look at them and they make no sense. There's just literally just says, oh, we need to, I don't know, set up a server, right? It's okay to ask questions around this saying, if I'm a stakeholder or a customer, how does this help me? Can you explain to me why this is important? It's absolutely okay to ask questions as a customer, right? Customers don't know how your teams are building the product. What they do know is how they are using it, right? You don't need to know how your phone is working, like what the code is inside of your phone, to be able to say whether you like something, how it works or not, right? Or whether you use, enjoy, or do not enjoy certain functionality in your phone. So take this kind of approach and don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah. What else do we have? Good. Okay. So I don't have as much time, so let me look into, go over some of the questions, because I do need to go have lunch before I jump onto a sprint review and retro with my team. So Hilda is saying, to Manish about the retro, my team was once like that. I tried starting with icebreakers, sending them some questions before the call so they can think about answers, and end with the lighter questions, such as shout outs or appreciations. Yeah, that's great. That's some good ideas there. Thanks, Hilda. Okay, capacity 15 developers by 10 days. Well, these are days. Velocity is not days or hours. So they do not actually compare in any way. You can maybe watch my velocity video. I think it's called Velocity is a Made Up Number. So look into that. Jack is saying, I just feel like psychological safety is essential. It is 100%. For example, in regards to previous question about unresponsive team, this might be caused by people being afraid of saying important things. Yes, that's true. Yeah, so psychological safety is really can kind of save or break, I'd say, a team or Scrum implementation. So 100%. Right, Hilda is saying, I agree, Jack. Another thing I did was stop inviting managers because I found the mood changed when they would join. So I guess there was a level of fear. 100%. Managers should not be in the retrospectives. No one should be in the retrospectives apart from the Scrum team. And then if you have a particular, sometimes you have even, say, not a manager, but you have a Scrum team and you have maybe a senior developer who has a very strong voice. You might to manage the situation more specifically to make sure that this person is not actually overturning everybody else's opinions or ideas. And this might mean sometimes not inviting them, or actually talking to them and telling them not to talk during the retrospectives. We actually had that. Sometimes we would do that with senior devs, or we would say, no, you're not speaking. Not your turn. I'm going to tell you when it's your turn, right? So managing that situation can be also helpful. So there's lots of discussion around that there between Jack, Hilda, and Chad. Some great discussions. Thank you for sharing that. We have another one, Sneezing Ho. Sorry for the pronunciation. Hi, Daria. Using both Scrum and Kanban, when we finish a sprint and some items are incomplete, these items should be put back together in the product backlog. But what should we do with work item aging metric? I would say when you put it back, you would want to put it back into to do, right? I would say that the item should be sitting in progress only when it is actually in progress, right? When someone is actively working on it. So that might help you with that aging metric with the item, because you're putting it back into to do, depending on what software you're using. But I think that's usually, often people put back the items in the product backlog and they actually don't change the status of this item. I think that's not good. You need to put it back into to do. Okay. Oh, anyone who has some advice regarding handling a lot of different personalities during facilitation? I've always find it hard when some people want details, others want overviews, and so on. Trying out different ways to facilitate, sometimes it's going to be more aligned with one person, sometimes not with someone else, right? And that can help you, like just bringing in a bit of that diversity in how you facilitate or the tools you use, that can be helpful. And then also going back to the working agreements, we will have different personalities, we will have different needs as a team. So going back to that discussion, saying as a team, as a group of people working together, what are our standards? Do we want to have a lot of details when we talk about these things, or do we want to have overviews? Or what is our kind of golden middle as a team? So that can be helpful just to have this discussion. Okay, some more things. Let me take maybe one more question. Denise is asking, how can you give an example of impediments and how you remove them as a Scrum Master? Chat saying thank you for having today's chat. Looking forward to more. Me too. Okay, so going back to Denise's questions. So an impediment, we had some discussion about impediments. Okay, so what I usually give as an example, it's an old one, but I think it works really well. So an impediment was, I was working with a team, and the system in our company was set up in a weird way where it would like log out, like kick out our contractors if you like didn't sign something, like the manager didn't sign their contract extension or whatever. And the system was broken, like it was not working well. And like right before the initial contract would come to a term, the system would kick them out and they would not be able to access any of the resources and not be able to work like at all. And it would usually take like 2, sometimes even 3 weeks to get it sorted. And it happened with my team where we had quite a few contractors working with the team, part of the team. And one day they just got kicked out and they were not able to work. And that was a huge impediment because on their side, they were like, I have finished all of the contract details. Like I have sent all of my signatures. I have sent all of the information. I checked with my manager. They have also signed everything and sent all of the information to HR or whatever that is, but we haven't heard back. Like we don't know who to contact. That was an immediate impediment for me to solve because the team did everything they could. We know that the managers did everything they could, and now everybody was kind of sitting there and just waiting because they didn't know what to do. And I took on that impediment, and I honestly, I just tried to contact whoever I could. I went as far as I actually went to talk to our SVP, and I told him, these people, you've just lost $25,000 because these people cannot work and you're still paying them, right? And we were able to resolve this impediment in like a couple of days instead of 2 weeks, because I tried to figure out who can I contact, how can I escalate, and I think I contacted pretty much the whole HR department trying to solve this problem. And then I have also created actually a process for how to properly escalate, who to contact, like where do you need to submit the forms, so that if that happens again, it can be resolved quicker and it is no longer an impediment. Like someone else can do it without me. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I saw some other things going around. Denise, Cecilia is asking, as a Scrum Master, how do you support the features analyzing process to get features to ready and move to backlog? No one way to do that, I'd say. Some of the teams, like the teams I worked with, would sometimes have a very specific process of how they would refine the items. They had like actually set up a very specific step-by-step process for refining the items before they can be put into the product backlog. So that may be something you want to talk with your team about. Like, what do we need? Like, what is the minimum amount of information we need to consider something ready for the product backlog? And how do we actually get there? Like, what do we do as a team? What is the process? So I think it's a good discussion to have with the team. Javier is asking, how do you manage the defects, bugs with your main project tasks? In Jira, I separate them in epics, but don't know how to have a nice report for only the project tasks. I don't think you need to put them in epics. In Jira, like the bugs in Jira, you can highlight them as defects, right? You just choose a different type of ticket, right? Defect, it's just a different type of ticket, and then you can get reports that are based on the type of ticket. Like you create a filter that only picks up the bugs and tickets. So I think you might need to actually do it a bit more manually, depending on what kind of information you're trying to get. Is it how many tickets, how many bugs you are fixing, right? You should be able to gather that info by just filtering it out, by like advanced filters, by just checking in the tickets that are in type defects. The issue is you're not the admin of the project, so go talk to the admins. You need to figure out the way I don't think you need to even do any setup changes. I think it's pretty straightforward. You just need to make sure that maybe you can use even as simple as you can use a label. So, and that way you would be able to filter them out. So that can be another solution. But yeah, go talk to the admins. Tony saying thank you for the stream. Thank you for joining. Jack also, thanks for joining in. Everyone, thank you for being here. That was fun. I will be kind of jumping off. It was a bit ad hoc today, but I do want to do these streams more often. I have put kind of in my calendar to do it ideally every Monday if I can. No promises, but I'll try to do that because I like jumping in here. You have lots of cool questions every time. I might not be able to do it every week, but I'm trying to make it a bit more often. I know I said it last time. We're getting there slowly but surely. At some point we're gonna get there. But yeah, so that is it. I think what we'll do together with Eliza is we'll look back into the stream, and I think we'll cut maybe some of the questions, the answers that I gave, and put them either as short videos, or we can also potentially cut the stream into shorter version with just answers and questions and put it up on the channel. We'll see what we'll do with this one. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. It is always great to have you here, and I hope to see you in the next one. And feel free to ask questions in the comments. I try to go back to those and reply as much as I can. So in the comments to the videos and to the stream once we post it as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'll see you next time.